Hey guys, it's Roscoe, and on the Space Couch today I'd like to talk about Yuri Gagarin and the Russian rocket industry. It was prompted by me reading this book, which was a biography of Gagarin. Fascinating character, obviously one of the greatest heroes of mankind for his achievement, first man in space, and full credit to the Russians as well for getting him there and back again. So he was born in the 1930s in Russia to a peasant family, and being a farmer in 1930s Stalinist Soviet Union, not a particularly pleasant experience, I expect. And then the Germans invaded, and they were in occupied territory. His brother and sister were taken off into slavery in Germany till the end of the war, and he was part of the resistance, I believe. He certainly saw some tough things. Yeah, fascinating character. So he was obviously the first man in space, and the Russians, wow, talk about brute force getting him there. I mean, mind you, they did beat the Americans in every single thing, you know. First satellite in space, first animal in space, first man in space, first 2 men in space, first 3 men in space, first woman in space, first space stations. The only reason the Americans were going to the moon is because they'd already lost the space race. Anyway, Yuri Gagarin, such an achievement, but the cost of fame, you know. I mean, he was the most famous man on Earth at that time for his achievement. He travelled the world, the Russians wanted him out there. It was a huge propaganda victory, and you cannot take anything away from that achievement. So the Americans, obviously, they were just left in the dust. President Kennedy had been informed the night that he was going to be launching Gagarin that it was likely to happen, and should he be woken up for it, and he says, nah, no point. You know, it's a shame because a crucial moment in the history of mankind, but politics as ever, you know. So yeah, Gagarin, after his flight, I mean, he was such a national treasure that he wasn't allowed to go back into space again, and he essentially ended up flying a desk. He wanted to get back into the space program. They wouldn't let him. He was one of Khrushchev's pets, obviously, because this all happened while Khrushchev was in charge. After Khrushchev was pushed out and replaced by Brezhnev, things weren't so great. He certainly didn't have the access that he was used to. No one would listen to him and take his orders. Well, not take his orders, but he was very much in the cold. Other troubles he had with that amount of fame, he started drinking. It sounds like there were affairs. He had caught a few times by his wife. Shame, but that just goes to show he was just human like the rest of us, you know, just an ordinary guy in extraordinary circumstances, and you never know how you'll react, I suppose, until it happens to you. But yeah, Yuri Gagarin, incredible achievement, certainly one of the greatest explorers of all time, definitely. And the Russian rocket industry, incredible. I mean, you think of Americans with all their funding for NASA, and the Russians who are essentially just building it in a yard somewhere. Always sounds like brute force. I mean, what's that old story? The Americans spent millions of dollars trying to invent some sort of pen that will write ink in zero gravity. The Russians just said, use a pencil. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd share a few thoughts about Yuri Gagarin today and the Russians. I hope you enjoyed, as always.